So what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Granny's Peach Tea. We're at episode 41.
41!
41!
Is it 41 something? Is that a big baseball number, or am I just making shit up?
We're one away from that. That'll be 42.
All right, say it.
Robinson.
For a guy who knows nothing about baseball, it was damn close.
That was close. I'll give you props on that. But we're at episode 41. Thank you very much for joining us. Our intro music tonight, if you watched Hawkeye earlier today, it's Save the City from the Rogers the Musical play, because, of course, Marvel would make this available on all streaming platforms and make it an actual real song and release it as a single.
Of course they would. It was Agatha all along. That started it, baby.
And now we have another one. If you get a chance to check it out and listen to all the words to it, it gets a lot crazier than what you can either hear now or whatever we heard on the episode. So, for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I am so happy that I now live in a world that there's a television show that gives us Avengers the Musical, because I swear that if the Avengers movie was true and we actually had that whole, was it the event in 2012 that they called the event, right?
Battle of New York. It's been referred to as it.
If the Battle of New York happened, you know damn well today in the year of our Lord 2021, they would have a musical up there. They'd be commercializing the shit out of it. And I love that Hawkeye was like, yep, this is what's happening. So,
yeah,
love it.
And it's like, well, I was there.
Yep, I was there.
2 quick comments we got popping in. Farachi, what's up?
Lost
How's
man.
it going here? Thanks for tuning in. And, of course, Alex would not miss it. Missed opportunity. You could have done Sunflower from Into the Spider-Verse. Alex, we had a whole conversation before the show and throughout the day.
For Biggie.
The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks of any comic book movie we're ever going to cover. But that made that decision tough. But, man, when you have Save the City and you get hit with that by Hawkeye today, you can't pass that up, because it would never happen again.
Yeah, no, that was just too perfect to let go.
Yeah, it's right up our goofy alley.
Maybe at the end, as this is a Wednesday that's kind of like a Friday, Eddie and I'll drop some Biggie, you know?
It's true. I mean, we don't have to just have one song. We could have multiple songs.
That's
you never know. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's right. Or maybe I'll just sing it. Who knows?
You never know. All bets are off tonight. It is the night before Thanksgiving. So
yeah, it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
I like it. Well played, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, whether it's on the Facebook stream, if you're joining us on YouTube, if you're joining us on Instagram or Twitter, or if you found us on the audio-only version, thank you so much for that. If you're on the audio-only version, you can't see Jason is rocking is that a Hawkeye-inspired T-shirt you got going? I mean, it kind of looks like it.
It's the colors, which is why I wore it. It is the colors, but it is actually, in reality, my Admiral Akbar. It's a trap T-shirt.
Okay, it covers it though. So you got the colors, right?
I wanted the colors. I don't have a Hawkeye T-shirt, unfortunately. Most of my T-shirts are Batman. That's why you don't see me rocking cool T-shirts like you, because most of my stuff. Once we get to the Batman, I'll have a bunch of T-shirts. But unfortunately, I don't have a Hawkeye one, so I just went for the colors.
So I am sure I will bust it out the next couple of weeks, but I do have one Hawkeye T-shirt. It is actually from the cover of I forgot the number of Avengers issue it was, when he's got Ant-Man on the arrow, and someone's gonna get it. That I actually have a T-shirt of that. I'll try to remember to bust that out next week.
That is fantastic.
Today it is Pulp Fiction, Groot and Rocket. Actually,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So. We ran with that today. Honestly, it was just the first T-shirt that was in that pile. So,
actually, just that picture. What does Marcellus Wallace look like? I am Groot. So what is Groot? Say Groot one more motherfucking time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So speaking of greatness, though, let's do our regular quick opening segment. Let's pay from giving the Hoff some shit, a couple months back. We got to get back to unhassling the Hoff, because we don't want anyone to get sick or any kind of like weird voodoo to go down.
We don't want
Jason
curse to be upon us.
what do you got for us for Baywatch Nights? Because you told me it was crazy, so I'm expecting some real insanity here.
It's crazy, and it starts off. It starts off not as crazy. Like it starts off like it's gonna might be a bit boring, but it goes crazy. It goes nuts. So we got Yasmine Bleeth guest stars. Yasmine Bleeth, for people who don't know, was a Baywatch person. So she's big guest starring from Baywatch, and she's in her lifeguard stand. And this guy just walks in, puts a gun to his head, and says, "I'm gonna kill myself." And then she tries to talk him down. She's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Garth." And she goes, one of the best lines, "Garth? Garth? Like Garth Brooks?" Because it was the 90s. And then so she talks him down from wanting to kill himself. And he goes, "Oh, then maybe I'll just kill you." And he puts the gun on her. And then we have dialogue like this. "You're pretty. Why kill me? You wouldn't understand." I mean, this is such a creepy exchange. What? Like, and then he goes, "Would you ever kiss me?" And then so,
what?
Yeah. So she goes, "Yes," and she goes to kiss him, and then she like takes the gun, punches him in the face, gets the hell out of there, runs to the next lifeguard station where there's a guy who's like, just another lifeguard. And Garth, like he's the goddamn Terminator, puts his hand through the glass door, grabs this guy's head, and smashes it against the door, knocking him out. And then Mitch shows up and saves the day. He runs. She actually runs, and she's caught by the cops holding his gun, so they like arrest her. And then Mitch is looking around, and this guy Garth starts asking questions, and Mitch, being David Hasselhoff, is like, "This is the guy," right? And then it becomes for a little while a stalker thing where he leaves her 12 messages. They changed her number and it's unlisted. He leaves her 12 more messages. He's showing up at her apartment. He's leaving teddy bears in the apartment. He has this thing where he invites Mitch out because he thinks Mitch is her boyfriend. And he gets Mitch to go to pull a punch at him. And he scratches himself and calls the cops to try to make Mitch look like he's crazy.
Wow.
He leaves. Yeah. Now, and then here's where it gets crazy, because it has not gotten crazy yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He leaves a box of live kittens in the woman's bathroom on the beach to distract Yasmine Bleeth, and kidnaps her and puts her in a cage. We find out that Garth was an ex-Marine, and his father was Army or soldier in either the Army or the Marines. I don't remember. And his father was a decorated general, which is why he's kind of protected. And they hunt him. They figure out where he's taking Yasmine Bleeth, and it's an old air base. And when Mitch and the gang break in, you literally see an air base full of reporters and soldiers and women dead in chairs and mummified like they've been there a while. Like there's a guy in a general suit, like he's been there a while. So this guy literally has a museum of the dead he's curating. And that is why this episode is called The Curator.
I don't have a lot of words for this episode. It's a reaction. I don't even know. This is Baywatch Nights we're talking about here.
This is Baywatch Nights. I mean, and it ends with Mitch throwing this guy through a wall and him being impaled on one of those metal rebar spikes and killed in this air base of death.
I'm kind of scared of this show now.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm nervous now.
That's why I texted you. I texted you and Tony. I was like, we are back to form in Baywatch Nights. I reached out to Tim. I was like, Tim, this is the episode. If you don't like this episode, you're not down with the insanity of this show.
And since Tim's not here at the moment, I'm going to assume that means he didn't get a chance to watch it. So we're going to see. I have a feeling we'll be seeing him soon.
Yeah, so we'll figure. We'll talk to him when he shows up. But yeah, man, Baywatch Nights. I was excited to talk about it. Back to form. Oh man, I hope it gets even crazier.
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know, but look, I didn't think this was possible. If you told me at the beginning of that episode where I was watching going, oh, I hope it's not another dud, that at the end I was going to be in an airbase museum of death curated by not Garth Brooks.
Fair enough.
I mean,
fair enough. All right. Wow. How do you segue from that?
I don't know. Speaking of Garth Brooks,
speaking of Garth Brooks, we have a bunch of stuff to get to. So we got a bunch of CW stuff to jump into before we get into the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye that dropped on Disney Plus earlier today. So spoiler warning, really early for that, and we will put up the spoilers along the bottom ticker when we do get to that.
If you haven't watched Hawkeye yet, and you want to, and if you're listening to this show, I don't know why you wouldn't want to watch Hawkeye. Yeah. Like, skip the segment. Like, skip right to the movie after, end at the CW, come back to Hawkeye, because you don't want to ruin it. There's some good stuff there, and I don't want to be the one who ruins your enjoyment.
Exactly. We're just trying to be the party poopers.
Right.
As some might say over there. But all right, let's jump into it. Let's jump into DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Season 7, episode 6. Jason, I think you're a new catchphrase. Well, you actually have 2 new catchphrases, according to me, for this show.
Okay.
One of them, I think you definitely can bust out for this episode.
Oh, it's in my notes. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
So, great episode right off the bat. We get to see... we already deduced that the evil Wave Rider had something to do with Bishop. We knew Bishop was... But... man, do the Legends not disappoint with the twist they give us, because we get to see Bishop's side of destroying the Wave Rider in the first episode, Bishop's side about getting the animatronic clones out there, but then things go nuts because Gideon becomes Hal from the Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
right. She literally. They have an Ava on board, an Ava clone, because if you remember, Bishop is the progenitor of the Ava clones. And Bishop and the Ava clone, he's like, you're time mistress, we're going to vote, we're a team. And Gideon gets her into an airlock and goes, and just shuts her right out into space and time, wherever the hell they are. And there's a line where Ava's like, don't do this, Gideon. And she's like, I'm sorry, Ava, I cannot comply.
Yeah, I was like, wow, bang on the nose.
Yeah, but again, par for the course. I liked it. So we get Bishop's side, and Bishop's side pretty much. I'll go through his first. Is slowly he realizes that Gideon has trapped him there. She made him take the time oath, and he did it without thinking. She replaced him in his life with a robotic clone, and pretty much said, now there's no reason you can't be here with me forever guarding the timeline. And so Bishop, being a brilliant guy, and I actually am so glad they brought this character back because I like this character and I love this actor. Mm-hmm. He realizes after looking into his own future that he becomes the villain, that this hatred for the Legends is misfounded because they actually helped him redeem himself, and then runs to the bathroom, which is the only spot he created that Gideon could not see. And he has this wonderful line where he goes, you know what? I can't kill the Legends, but it's better to die with dignity. He runs to the bathroom and goes, yeah, forget it. Dying with dignity is overrated. And he goes on the bowl, and it goes out of the Wave Rider, and he jettisons down with a parachute. It's hysterical.
That was one of my favorite parts of the episode.
Mine too. The Bishop stuff is actually my favorite part of this episode. Watching him and the evil Gideon is great.
Yeah.
Then we find out a lot of stuff about Noxtantine because he gives up fixing the time machine, and we find out that he was in World War II, and he was in love with someone in his platoon, and
I had a feeling that was the case.
I did too. I think they were kind of they were being kind of telegraphic that. Yeah, that's fine. But the thing is, like, everyone in this platoon gets killed but him because he freezes. Mm-hmm. Right? And then there's this cool moment because when they land, we all think they're supposed to be in prehistoric time, but they're actually in 1986, I think it is, Chernobyl.
Yep.
The morning of the before the explosion happens, the nuclear meltdown, which kills a bunch of people and destroys Chernobyl. So they get abducted by Russians. He has like a PTSD flashback, and then realizes after that this is his moment. He could save them, and he speaks Russian because he used to work. I guess he said in a Russian laboratory.
Yeah.
Kind of cool to see Constantine speaking Russian, I got to admit. Yeah. Then he gets them to evacuate the base, which alerts the evil Wave Rider to go, because the evil Wave Rider is literally looking for these blips in the timeline that the Legends have created.
Pretty much the footprints and stuff.
The footprints, that Ava is freaking out about. And so then they get they get free because Bayrod comes in and saves them. I don't remember how. It doesn't matter. It's Legends. Bayrod. He probably got stoned and did it. It's great. And then before I get to the end of this, something important between Gideon and Gary happens, because Gideon asks Gary if he likes being human, and he says yes, and he asks her, and then she says, Gary, would you like to get it on?
There it is.
And they do in fact get it on. I knew.
Oh yeah, no, they don't hold back about it. It's right then and there.
It's right there, yeah, and I kind of like that, I mean, Gary doesn't get it on very often, if ever.
Well, because they mentioned him as an alien. Which, by the way, I probably put too much thought into this sometimes, because I was like, really? The alien, the human parts?
He's got to keep his glasses on.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. No, which is fine. They did actually talk about that for a second. So I was like, okay, so when he's human, he has all full human function. Okay, fine.
And that's the thing. I don't think the glasses like present a hologram of him being a human. I think the glasses make him human.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I mean, and look, even if it doesn't, it's fucking Legends, guys.
Whatever. I listen. I just admit I thought about it for a minute, but I thought about this before. I thought about it with Mick Rory and the alien that he was with, but apparently that syncs up because both same situation.
Right.
I've been like, damn it, character in Mallrats. I wondered about these things sometimes with Superman and Lois.
Oh.
Like I thought about this crap sometimes. I'm just like, wait, what?
That was Jason. What's his name? Right? Jason Lee. His character in Mallrats.
Who, when I managed to Sam Goody a long time ago, I would joke around and walk around with an empty paper cup sometimes. I walk through the store sometimes, and only some people would ask me about it. Other people were like, "What's with the cup?" And I would never explain it.
That's awesome.
Brody, that's who it was.
Brody, that's his name, Brody.
Yes. Escaping for a minute.
And then the final moment of Legends is they get the time machine working again, and they escape, and it kind of looks like Bishop is swept along with them because he's landing on the time machine with them. And that's how it ends. So, as always, up for the show, loving the show. It's literally had 3 bad episodes, in my opinion, for the whole run.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that this and Batwoman go on, like, their mid-season finales are airing right now as we're recording.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I guess that means they will have 14 episodes each this year.
Yeah. And
they're going to go on hiatus now, as these CW shows typically do, around Christmas time.
Which I'm kind of, I'll be honest with you, to have for both of these shows, Legends and Batwoman this season for Batwoman, only to have 14 episodes, I'm kind of bummed because I'm enjoying both this season. Yeah,
well, hopefully we get, less is more.
Yeah, oh yeah, good point.
Because I do always feel that the CW shows, I mean, they go to like Flash, seems like they always have to have like 24 episodes.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a couple of filler episodes and
a
lot of that. It's pretty hard to do that.
Maybe why Legends is so good is because it only does the half seasons.
Yeah, like Legends has done that. Black Lightning used to do half seasons.
Which was and you know my love for Black Lightning.
Yeah, Superman and Lois did a half season. Yeah. Flash might be the only one left unless we'll see the episode count, unless they cut it down.
Which I'd be okay with.
Smart. Yeah, I think it would be smarter to do that. All right, so let's, speaking of another CW show, let's keep it rolling to Batwoman Season 3, Episode 6. Mary's pretty much front and center in this episode as becoming the new Poison Ivy, which I still think we're going to get OG Poison Ivy at some point. I don't think she's going to be the only one because they kind of allude to that in this episode where they're like, she's becoming the current one, or it's more of like an infection.
Yeah.
Meaning leading to the fact that they're giving more than one now.
Yeah, and I think what's going to happen is she's going to unearth the OG Poison Ivy. I think that's where this is going.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, so there's a scene in the beginning where the episode opens and there's a victim found covered in like honeys and bees and stuff like that. Great Candyman reference by the cop there.
Yes.
So I was excited about that because my excitement for the Candyman franchise got reinvigorated with the brand new one. Did you see the new one yet? Oh no.
No, I haven't yet, but I want to because it's the guy who did Get Out, right?
Yeah. So it's a it's a sequel to the original, and it ignores the two straight to DVD ones.
That's what you
should. VHS at the time.
VHS.
Actually, VHS at the time, probably.
God,
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I had it on Betamax.
Yeah, actually, it was on Laserdisc. This episode, Alice, I think she's always. I've said it many times. She's my favorite character on Batwoman. I know you don't. For the dude, she crushes it comedically in every episode. She just drops in randomly one-liners, and they'll be having the Bat team will have a serious moment, and she'll just crack one thing or look at them like they're completely insane. I love it.
They are, you know what it is I felt last season she was the great Kate Kane proselytizer, and how much just those words together make me angry. But this year, this season, they're using her perfectly. She's my favorite too this season because she's just, you're right, her comedic timing is great. The actress herself, her comedic timing is great, and they find just the right moments and the right amount of ridiculousness to push it.
Yeah.
And I think they really found a good balance with her this season. I really am enjoying her.
And there's times where there's something crazy happening in the scene, and she's like the audience where she'll just be like, nobody seeing this? No? Nobody?
Nope, okay.
Really? Okay. I love it. So pretty much Mary's thing is that throughout the episode, we find out she's blacking out and she's doing poison ivy things. Kind of like how we alluded to like Harry Osborn in the comics, does that when he's Green Goblin. So it was very much like that. So she slowly starts turning into poison ivy. I thought something that was really, really random was the Sophie and Renee Montoya hookup. That looks like that came completely out of left field.
Do you mean that Sophie and Renee Montoya got it on?
Boom! Set it up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, dude, I agree.
Did that just seem like it literally came like there was one scene they're like, hey, what's up? And all of a sudden, wham.
That was weird. I'm hoping they set it up as just like a one night stand type thing to add some conflict, because obviously they're setting up Wilder, and
that's what I'm saying. They were setting up Sophie and Ryan, and all of a sudden Ryan's preoccupied for a minute. Bam! Oh, okay. Well, they got it on, and I just thought it was completely out of left field.
As Spike Lee once said, she's got to have it. You know what I mean?
I guess man. I mean, more power to her.
That's it. But I think I'm hoping what they're doing is they're setting up conflict for the actual romance of those two to get together, because they literally were just like, yeah, we're both here, we're both hurting. Like, that's how I kind of read that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was taking it, which I still was like, so is there a blueprint where Sophie has to have a romantic relationship with whoever's Batwoman at the time? We have to follow this. Like, we have to stick to that.
Yeah, it's in the comic book, you know?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I admittedly didn't read Batwoman, so I'm just totally going off this.
I didn't even know it was a comic book until you told me.
Yeah, and so towards the end, so they have this whole fight, and there's Batwing and Batwoman. They go ahead and they ended up fighting Poison Ivy. They have an interaction there, and there's a whole battle that happens. And Mary and Alice kind of shows up because she has conversations with Mary throughout the episode. Kind of like, I don't know if she wasn't, I don't know if she was intentionally trying to push her or give her, as a Joker would say, the push. You felt that was the case?
I think she was. I think what she was doing, and this is why I like Alice so much, because she's comic relief, but she's also got these like Machiavellian like chess moves going on.
Yeah.
And she set this up to be where she was. And I think her plan was, she was prodding her to figure out what her trigger was to get her to be Poison Ivy, because that's what happens at the end. She finds out it's light and she figures it out. But I think the whole reason she wanted to be around her is because she figured out that she was the Poison Ivy and she wanted to trigger her and ally herself with her. So I do think that was her plan from like Jump Street.
Super pun coming up, but she definitely planted the seeds for this many episodes ago.
Yes, we did.
When she was like, wait, they only call you when they need you. They don't see you, and stuff like that, which I don't want to quote something we talked about last week with the character not being seen, but we're not going to mention what that is.
What character?
Exactly. There was someone who was not seen and was just it kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah.
In that direction.
But I thought it was done well here because I do feel that this again, why I'm liking this season more is there's more consistency. You know, last season it was Kate Kane and the Joker's a painter, and now we're on Fire Island with plants, like healing plants. It's all over the place. But this, it was it the first or second episode where the doctor, what's her name again? Mary, right? Yeah. Like Mary comes and tries to talk to Ryan about something small, and Ryan's like, I don't have time. And then you see it again when she come after the poison ivy thing. So they've kind of been building this up where the team has been ignoring Mary for various reasons from, I think, the first or second episode. So I do want to give it credit that it had planned this, and the execution, I think, it really does pay off when you get the moment where Mary says to Wyler, like, you don't listen to me. You don't see me. You don't pay attention. I come to you with problems, and you're busy with your mother who abandoned you. And it was like, yeah, that's Poison Ivy talking, but it was established that when Poison Ivy takes over, everything's amplified. So those are feelings Mary had that is being amplified. So I just thought, kudos to this show for starting it out as something small and building it up to this moment.
Yeah, no, they've done a nice job with that. But at the end of the episode, we see Alice and Mary pretty much kind of like, all right, fuck it, we're skipping town. We're going to be supervillains, and we're going to go together. Like, we're the evil Thelma and Louise, essentially. But they're kind of like skipping town out of there. And then Ryan reaches out to Jada for help to find the cure, because she knows that there's been research done, and they know that previously Mary found a cure, I guess it was the McGregor syndrome that was there, using the Poison Ivy's stuff. So maybe they can go ahead and reverse engineer or kind of like make a mixture of that, and to try to cure Mary and save her. And the dilemma is thrown out there because she's talking to Luke about it. Like, well, what are we going to do without our doctor? We're going to do all this without our team doctor? Like, her part is missing. There was a hole in the team now. Shit, what the hell are we going to do here? So, moral of some stuff we've been covering, don't ignore people because they're going to become a supervillain.
Yeah, no, good point. True story. And look, I'm just going to throw this out there. David Hasselhoff, I've asked you to come on this show 20 times, and I don't think you've ever watched it, and I don't think you know my name, and I might become a supervillain now. But not until I'm done unhassling the Hoff, because I don't want the Germans. I don't want to incur the German wrath. No,
don't, because they will be very, very angry, and your path to become the leader of Latveria and wear an arm metal suit and everything like that, they might throw that off the rails.
That's true. No, and look, if I don't become a horribly scarred armor wearing sorcerer despot, then really am I even living?
I ask myself that once a week.
Once a week.
All right, so let's keep it moving on to our final CW show of the week. We got Flash last night, season 8, episode 2, which is also part 2 of the mini-series thing they're doing, Flash Armageddon, because my guess is they're going to do their 5 and then take their break and then resume or whatever the heck they're doing here.
Where we're going.
So there were 3 level up mentions this week. There were 3. Yeah, so we got that. So if you were playing the level up drinking game that we suggested last week, hopefully you were successful and got your 3 shots in. I was watching this where there were no shots available, so not possible. We find out that Barry owns Star Labs at one point, because there's a part where there's some shit going down, because pretty much Despero's thing is like, dude, today's the day that you lose your mind and all this shit starts. So I'm going to watch you today. He's like watching him like a hawk. And there's a lot of shit going down. Someone robs a bank and there's nobody injured. So Barry goes there. And then the captain, the new captain, she's like, well, you got to turn in your badge because you're wanted by the FBI. apparently helping out Carver last season because you're the second inside person that was available. He was like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he goes back to Star Labs, and there are people who jumped into Star Labs, and they're pretty much like ransacking the place, and they find out that it's like radioactive and stuff. But Barry says, oh, yeah, because I think the one cop says, oh, who's the owner? And he's like, oh, I am, Barry Allen. When was that established?
I don't think it was, but I'm gonna defend the Flash here. So I think in the first season, it's quite obvious that it is Wells that owns it, right? And Wells is, of course, Reverse Flash. And then we get so many Wells that I think it makes sense that at some point, probably that second Wells, which is like the most competent and smartest, probably like sign some paperwork to make sure get Barry
left it to him in the will.
Yeah, it was something like I don't think it's beyond the stretch of imagination.
No. I agree with you. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss this somewhere.
Oh no!
It was the first time no, that's never been mentioned.
It was never ever mentioned.
Okay,
at all.
No, I agree with you. It can be. I can buy that it happened, and that's fine through Wells. But I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the damn thing. So
no.
So I'm not going nuts here. I'm not the one who's losing my mind like Barry was supposed to lose his mind in this episode. So Despero's not going to come for me and start watching me tomorrow.
Well, no, actually, Ed, why I'm here is I'm watching you now because this is the moment where you go insane and kill us all. Yeah. So all I got to do is keep watching you and make sure we get through this episode. And all I'm saying is, thank God it wasn't last week's episode because we both would be killed.
I was going to say, I think one of the last 3 Spider-Man movies that we covered probably would have been the time where I totally lost my mind. Last week being the leader in that because that's kind of how it goes. All right, so what else we got here? So during that whole thing where the police are ransacking the place, Team Flash loses its Gideon because there's too much stuff on the back file, and if the cops got to it, they would find out Barry's secret. So Gideon tells him, hey, you got to erase me and shut me down and stuff like that. It was nice serving you, blah, blah, blah. And then their Gideon is done, which, whatever. The fact that they even have a Gideon, I'm like... Okay.
Is it... I was going to ask this because I don't remember. Is it the same type of Gideon as the Wave Rider?
I have no idea.
Because it's not the same voice, it's not the same look, but it's the same name.
Yeah, they've never really made that connection. I, in my head, always assumed it was the same Gideon, but then that wouldn't really make sense. So I just kind of let it go. Maybe it's just something they figured, hey, this doesn't make sense. Let's just get rid of it and move on. So we find some stuff about Despero's motivation and that he's a Calamolorian? That's what they go for. So apparently he has the strength and like ability, not all the abilities, but he has the strength of like a Kryptonian. And his motivation is he saw his planet go to shit and could have stopped it in advance. Now this is his planet, so he's like, all right, I see what's going to happen. I'm going to stop it this time. And that's why he's got this like hard on for Barry that he needs to stop him and at all costs.
Which I think answers the stupidest question posed by any character in one of these shows. He's not even from this planet. Why does he care what happens?
And that was a big question on this episode.
It was. And it's like, oh, gee, I don't know. I just watched freaking 6 seasons of Supergirl. Why did she care? I've watched half a season of Lois and Clark. Why does he care? Because that's what aliens do. They come here, they immigrate here to this planet, and they care because it becomes their home. Like, why was that even a through-line question? Like, he's not from Earth. Why does he care if it gets destroyed?
I have no idea. Dude, whatever. Listen, you care about where you live. What the hell are you going to do?
Well,
call it like that. I don't need a whole explanation about that.
No, right. Here's the thing. But that's a question that shouldn't even be asked. So, Wait, you're trying to say this guy's bad because he wants to kill Barry, who, is supposed to destroy the world? And your defense of Barry is, why does that guy even care? He's an alien.
Yeah,
it's like, why don't you care that billions of people are going to die?
So Chester gets into why he's a pacifist. Apparently, he invented a gun at one point because he's been asked to. Frost kind of like, hey, you should invent a gun to take out Despero. And he gets into why he had it before and it kind of all went wrong and it hurt a bunch of people. So he's like, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore. So the person that robbed the bank, we find out his name is Zoltar, which I couldn't help but think about Zoltar.
Well, doesn't
this Big?
I was gonna say, doesn't this episode end with Flash becoming big?
I kind of was just waiting for the machine to come out and the grant axe the wish and all of that. Couldn't happen. It's kind of disappointing. So yeah, Barry. So Barry has this whole thing where he gets caught by Zotar, and he has to get caught up in the air in the middle of a fight while robbing another bank. Then there's this like supercharged thing where he goes in and lets out the lightning and everything, and it kind of drives him nuts. He bounces around town. He starts blacking out and doing shit that Westworld said he was going to do, that he was going to start losing it. And Barry forgets that Joe died. And that's what tips it off that there's something wrong with Barry. And once he finds out, he really can't handle it and starts running around town. And then he's on the news. You find out that he did some shit, started throwing lightning at people. And now he's like public enemy #1 in Central City. It gets pretty wild. And then they go back to Alex, who thankfully is only on screen and not in her get-up, her David Bowie get-up. No, we see her twice on screen. I wonder if that's all we're going to see, and that's it. She's in the crossover. But she mentions that Kara and John are off-world conveniently, because that's what you do, when they don't want to appear on the show, or they can't appear on the show.
Our show just ended, and Melissa Benoist's on vacation, and the dude who I forget his name, but the dude who plays Martian Manhunter's on vacation. So all you got is me. They're off-world.
Yeah.
They're in Tahiti. It's a wonderful place.
That's what they used to say about Superman and Supergirl season 1. Yeah, he's off-world, whatever.
He's off-world. How often are you off-world? You have a family, Superman.
Dude, you got shit to do. So at the end of the episode, though, Barry doesn't know where to go. He runs to the Hall of Justice that we saw that was established in Crisis, and he meets up with Black Lightning there. Super excited about that. Couldn't remember. So apparently we're going to get a whole lot of Jefferson Pierce in part 3 of this.
I'm excited. You know my Jefferson Pierce love. I love that character. I love that actor. I love Black Lightning.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we'll see where they head out from here.
And real quick, just to share. So for the movie we watched tonight, Into the Spider-Verse, I was looking at the cast last night as I was watching it, and I realized that Tobias Whale plays Tombstone. And I texted Ed Tobias Whale was in this movie, plays Tombstone. Why isn't he in this movie more? So this is like a Black Lightning reunion episode.
Yeah, and it was great. And we'll get into Spider-Verse in a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up Tobias Whale in this moment.
No, of course. We also love Tobias Whale. So. All right, so the MCU dropped a brand new show today, Marvel Studios Hawkeye. And for it, and for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we have a special guest who Jason has brought in to join us. Walter, what's up, dude?
How's it going? Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for joining us, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, as have I.
So Walt, I know you're here to jump. The main thing was to jump into Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So you dropped some Miles Morales knowledge on us. I know it's your favorite hero, but you also wanted to get into Hawkeye, which dropped today, first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
What were your overall thoughts on the first 2? Quick.
Well, I was very nervous going into this, considering the inspiration, because the Fraction run of Hawkeye is some of the best Hawkeye comics ever. I love the story. So I was I'm always nervous when they try to bring a really good story that I'm passionate about to life, because I'm prone to being disappointed. And I must say, the first 2 episodes have got my attention. I enjoyed it. It was a fun show. I really enjoyed where they're going with, at least where I believe they're going with this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're familiar with the run, like you had mentioned, I had shared some of that on our Facebook page. For those who might not be familiar with it, you can check that out and maybe give it a quick read. And as we do know, though, the MCU doesn't always follow panel by panel for stuff like that. They take that was a good way to put it, inspiration from it. So it covers your butt when you want to kind of change things here and there. And they've done that. They did it with Extremis when they went and adapted that for Iron Man 3. It's a lot of liberties with that.
Yeah.
And
they did it with WandaVision, right?
Because did it with the Infinity Gauntlet. I mean, yeah. Shit.
That's true.
And everyone adored it. So I mean, listen, they went ahead and they nailed it right there. Let's drop in a quick comment here from Alex. This show was a hit. The bullseye for me.
Bullseye.
Nice job,
Nice.
Alex. I like
Nice.
that. I love the character bond between Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. They're trying to be a superhero, which causes a lot of consequences. Absolutely.
Yeah, their relationship is super cool. Like what I loved so much about these episodes, because of course I love these episodes. Marvel pays me to say this, but
I'm a shill. That's been established.
We're both shills.
Yes.
But I love that Hawkeye's like the angry dad in these two episodes. Like he's not her dad, but he's like a grumpy, like, oh God, all right, I'm gonna bail you out. Okay, we're gonna fix this.
He's like, I'm too old for this shit. That's pretty much kind of what
exactly it. He's like, I'm old for this.
I love it. So let's talk about the first part of the first episode where we get introduced to Kate Bishop. And they go through the prism of the Battle of New York, which we see from a completely different angle than what we've seen before. I personally thought that was really interesting. That was pretty cool. We see the Chitauri going through. And when I saw what part of Manhattan they were in, my first thoughts were like, all right, this is obviously going to be 2012, Battle of New York. We're going to see that. And then we see her lose her father. But the key thing being is that she sees Clint doing his whole move where he jumped off the roof backwards and fired the arrow and stuff like that. And she got instant inspiration because he also saved her at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got to say, I am in love with the obviously MCU and the entire entity that's become, but I'm so impressed at their ability to go and reuse footage and rework things in the past, a la turning Peter Parker into that kid that Tony saves. Like they're just able to shoehorn every and at the end of the day, I know that you guys just made this up on the fly. The child in me is like, damn it, they did it again. Like, right?
Listen, if you're going to do shoehorning, just do it properly. Just make sure it makes sense and you kind of cover your bases, have your ducks in a row, and I'm good with it. And they seem to be really good about that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, this is kind of like an English assignment I sometimes do, like write this story from a different character's perspective. And that's kind of what they do here. And I love it. Like watching her moment like with her family, and they give you a very real, like emotional moment that her parents are about to split up, and then the Chitauri attack happens and she loses her dad and she thinks she loses her mom, and she just has that one glimpse of Hawkeye, and it's it's again the battle from a different like perspective. I was like, I know you weren't thinking this in 2012, but who cares? You've done it so well and made it fit so well that like I'm there. I'm in.
Plus, we also know that there were obviously a bunch of different perspectives from the Battle of New York that we've never seen. So you can kind of like, you can play with that a lot. And they do play with the Battle of New York as a big cornerstone part of the MCU where like so many things were born. Not as much as like the Flash with the particle accelerator. It's like, villain of the week, particle accelerator. All right, cool, let's go. Not to that extent. They do it smartly.
Hey, my turkey sandwich is cursed. Particle accelerator.
Yeah, whatever. By the way, we do have our fourth guest in there because he mentioned he wanted to join us. No, it is not. No, it is not Rick. It is, but we got Tim.
Tim!
Hey.
What's up, guys? What's going on?
What's up? What's going on?
Nah, same old crap. I had to come on for Hawkeye. I loved it. Yeah, where is Rick?
Right,
the biggest Hawkeye advocate I know, and he's not here.
He might be joining us. He kind of got caught in. He's visiting in town, so he's doing the thing where he's bouncing around a bunch. So timing may have goofed it up, but I'm sure we got a couple 4 more weeks of this, so I'm sure we'll see him at some point. All right, so I guess let's keep it going. I thought there was one thing that was really huge here that was kind of played for laughs when we started with the intro of Save the City, and that was Rogers the Musical. That was something I thought was great. They did a great job. They reached out to actual people behind Hairspray, and it was inspired by Hamilton and stuff like that, and it turned into like a real musical here. But Clint,
and I would pay good money to see it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I think all 4 of us and many more would say, would you be shocked if they were announced tomorrow? Oh yeah, Rogers the Musical is a real thing now. We're just gonna go ahead and get it out there.
I'm taking my class. Look, everyone's going. It's gonna be great.
as long as Lin-Manuel Miranda does it, I'm in.
Yeah.
I need Lin-Manuel Miranda as Steve Rogers. That's
Steve
Oh,
Rogers.
there you go.
Yes. I'm not giving away my shield.
But Clint's perspective, though, I think is actually pretty, like, in some ways it's kind of heartbreaking when he sees Natasha through this whole thing, and he kind of, his reaction is really heartfelt because, I mean, he's seeing something reenacted where his best friend, his best friend died. And what did they say? It was 2 years. This is set 2 years after Endgame.
Yeah.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys? How'd you guys feel about that?
Who wants to go?
I thought it was. I mean, I like that. I mean, again, I like this iteration of Hawkeye. This is not the Hawkeye we got in Avengers, right? This is a jaded, angry Hawkeye who lost his family and regained them, and he's trying to get himself back, right? He's trying to become the person he was before the snap took everything from him. And so, in order to get that, he needed to sacrifice. His best friend was sacrificed, right? And so I really love the moment where he's turning his hearing aid off, which I love that he's deaf. He's deaf in one ear, by the way. And I love that moment when they go, "Why are you deaf in one ear?" And you just see like the different times where he's right next to an explosion. And he's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I completely bought the emotion there because it's like, imagine you are an Avenger and you are watching this like spectacle that you fought in, that people died in, and you guys went on to fight more, and you lost real friendships and real, like, this is real to him and not just entertainment, whereas it's entertainment to everyone else. And I really enjoyed that dynamic of it, and I thought he played it perfectly.
Walter?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. One thing I will say, for the entirety of the MCU, I've been very disappointed with Hawkeye as a character, only because, and we mentioned this earlier, they have liberties that they can take with retelling stories, and I was just so passionate about the character of Hawkeye, and I felt like Renner never got the quipping or the smart aleck character that I was used to or that I wanted. And now, friggin' like, what is it, like 10, 15 years of MCU now, and he's getting his own series. I like where he's ended up now, and I'm kind of comfortable with how they are telling this story and looking back on everything that he has been through. Because I tell people all the time, I don't care what anyone says, after the rat that let Ant-Man out of the quantum zone, Hawkeye is the hero of Endgame. Because this regular, degular human being strapped the damn Infinity Gauntlet to his back and was like going through the worst time. And just every time I see him now that I've gone and rewatched the MCU, every time I see him like groan and get up from getting his ass kicked or something, or like when he jumps through the window in that scene of Avengers, he's just like, oh, I'm just like, wow, I've found admiration for this guy. So seeing him in everyday clothes now is really wrapping the story together well for me, in my opinion. His arc is being told well.
No, I like that. And the thing that they talk about here is, like Jason, I mentioned he's deaf from one ear, and he's in the episode he takes a lot of bumps and bruises, and he's talking about cleaning it up, and he's got to heal himself. Which we've seen Steve Rogers and Thor and everybody just like, no problem, it's a flesh wound, not a problem. It's all good. It's kind of like Last Action Hero. They're like, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Bullet to the chest, just a flesh wound. Wash it out with some alcohol.
Not a big
good.
deal. Not a big deal. Tim, your take on the characterization of Hawkeye at this point?
Yeah, I've been happy. And don't forget, the Avengers are undefeated when Hawkeye fights. Without him,
yes, actually, that's a good point.
Without him,
that's a good
gotta remember
point.
that.
It's true.
But
if Hawkeye was in Infinity War, Endgame wouldn't have needed to happen because they would have swamped Thanos.
Yeah, no, but I love that whole opening scene at the play. I love the little, hey, that guy wasn't even there, talking about Ant-Man. That was a great little line. He's like, that guy wasn't even there. I don't know what this shit's about. I would definitely go see a Riders the musical though. But no, I love what they've done so far with the character. I think I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the series already.
So from the other perspective we get here is because I think these two episodes have done a great job balancing the two main characters here. Who, yes, it's Kate Bishop's more in the forefront here because we all understand there's going to be a passing of the torch here for at least the Hawkeye mantle. But we meet her when when she's an adult now, because they say she's 22 in this episode. She gets kicked out of school for destroying a bell. I'm pretty much proving a bet that, you know, which rattles. It was like the middle of the bell or like the bell itself. And she has this like crazy trick shot, ends up destroying the bell, gets kicked out of school, this whole wild thing, and ends up back home in New York City when Clint is there going to the musical. So we see all of that. So Kate ends up attending a charity event with her mom, who was living in the house where, you know, we last saw getting destroyed during the Battle of New York. And at that charity event, she's overheard hearing her mom getting threatened by a guy, and then kind of like, you know, sneaks into the silent black market auction that's going on there, and she happens to be dressed as one of the waiters that are there, so it helps her get through. But she has that great scene with like the guy's like, hey, you know, who are you working here? Oh yeah, Gary sent me. Okay, Gary's fine, and blah blah blah. And then Gary shows up and she tries the same shit, and she's like, well, you don't even know my name. And then she spins it there. But that gets things going with the Ronin suit, because that's apparently, you know, real shit really hits the fan. With there's an Avengers Endgame, we saw that Clint became Ronin and lost his mind a bit and started taking down the entire underworld, which apparently took down the mafia and everything else in New York City and amongst everywhere else, and was battling them. And the suit's up there for auction. Someone bids on it and bids on the sword as well. And, you know, she ends up suiting up and, you know, all hell breaks loose there. And we get the introduction of the tracksuit mafia.
Tracksuit mafia. Isn't that a bit on the nose?
Yes, which I thought was a great way to put that. I guess I'm going to flip it over to Walter here. As someone who is familiar with the run of Hawkeye, you know, in the comics and stuff like that, how did you feel about the portrayal of the tracksuit mafia across these two episodes as compared to the comics?
I gotta say, I'm always apprehensive about how things are going to come to life, and like I said, I've gotten more used to how Marvel does things. I liked it. It had enough of an intimidation factor that I felt like they were a threat, but at the same time, with a name like the Tracksuit Mafia, it's just like it's just low key enough that I think it fits the tone of the show, because I feel like the show in itself is not meant to be taken just too seriously. It's still a lighthearted show, in my opinion. Not to mention that it's set around Christmas time, so I'm gonna put this show up with Die Hard in my like Christmas collection.
I agree.
I like the representation. I like how they came to be, and I want to compare them to what other MC teams that we have. And I'm forgetting the name of the group from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Flag Smashers.
Yes.
So I look at the Flag Smashers and I say they fit the tone of their show and the intensity that they brought to the show. And I like what the Tracksuit Mafia brings to this show. Intensity-wise, I think it matches the tone of the show.
With every sentence ending with bro and things like that, and they're just like
that one scene though is my favorite Tracksuit Mafia scene. I don't know if it's at the end of the first, beginning of the second, when they're hucking in the Molotov cocktails.
Oh yeah,
and Hawkeye which awesome Hawkeye moment, punches the glass.
Yes.
Grabs the Molotov cocktail, throws it back, and lights them on fire. And then there's like, yo, bro, you're on fire, bro.
I thought that was great. So pretty much Kate suits up and then rescues some people that are there. And then she stops some people from stealing some stuff on the outside. It looks like the Tracksuit Mafia is trying to get more stuff in, which was labeled for the Avengers, because they found out it was they got that stuff from the rubble of the Avengers base that was found. And then she meets up with Lucky, the pizza dog, right outside, who's kind of like helping stop the Tracksuit Mafia right out there, which I thought was great. Anyone who's familiar with New York, by the way, whoever has Spectrum, Pat Kiernan of New York One shows up once again in the MCU as their main guy.
Yeah.
He's the ultimate multiverse character, I think, across, because he appears in everything.
Yeah, a hero.
I love that in every iteration of New York through the multiverse, Pat Kiernan is on New York One.
It's ridiculous. He's in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He's in the Netflix shows. He's in like the MCU. He's everywhere, dude. It's wild.
He's the Stan Lee of New York MCU or New York superhero movies.
Is there a chance he's a watcher? Also,
I was saying,
awesome.
I was saying, New York 1 is the real watcher place, like the real headquarters for the watcher. It's just New York 1.
Hello, I'm Pat Kiernan, and I'm here just to watch.
That's it. I'm not ever going to interfere. So Kate, after she suits up, tracks down Armand, but finds that he's murdered in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, some people see her leaving, and then assume that it's Ronan who did that. Ronan's back. He's taken down the mafia again. And then they get into a street fight with Kate, who holds her own because we do find out she was inspired to protect herself and protect her family. She's trained in martial arts, state archery master, and fencing and everything like that. She's pretty wild with that. But then Clint shows up, kind of gives her a hand with that, unmasks her, and finds out, oh, damn it, like, what the hell is this about? And that's how the first episode ends.
And she finds out that it's Hawkeye,
yes.
And her thing is like, oh my God, Hawkeye. Like, I love that moment where she kind of fangirls out for a bit, right? And you get that in the next episode too, where they go back to her place, and she's like, and he's like looking for the suit. He wants the suit back. And she's like, when you're done, can you sign my bow?
Yeah, now the whole fangirl thing. We all know we would be there if we met an Avenger.
I wouldn't be able to ask. I'd be like, yes, Mr. Hawkeye. Yes, Mr. Hawkeye.
which, by the way, I love the whole how much he hates the hero worship.
Yes,
I think that's a great addition to the character. He doesn't want nothing to do with. He just wants to be left alone. He wants to be with his family, enjoy Christmas, but now you got people giving him free food and hey, Hawkeye, and hey, this, and he hates every bit of it. I like that. I dig that.
Say, no, my name is Clint.
Yeah, my name is Clint, not Hawkeye.
And even in that bathroom scene, I'm sorry, go ahead, Walter.
Yeah,
I was gonna say a moment that I loved is when he's like we got to go get our equipment and what we need, and she's like, oh, we're about to suit up. And it's like, no, we're going to the pharmacy, bro.
She's giving him shit too. Like, oh, that's disappointing,
Yeah.
She also gives him shit though after they're in Times Square and they see people dressed up and stuff, and someone's Ant-Man and stuff like that.
That's funny.
And then someone's an Arrow, and then he's like, "No, that's Katniss Everdeen." Like, man, whatever.
Yeah.
Not really me. They have that talk though, like Tim mentioned, is that he's not about it. And then, she's giving him, jokingly saying about your problem's branding. You don't let anyone on the inside. And he's more like, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to do my job. And that's really it.
And he's technically retired, isn't he, at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say. I think he is retired. I mean, the current state of the Avengers is a little bit in flux from
and
what
even
we've seen
and even Shield or anything. You're not really working for anybody. He's just,
right. Well, he was Shields, and Shield is gone. So
Yeah.
I think it's fair to assume that he is retired.
Yeah. Well, he also, I'm pretty sure he said he was retired in. Was retired in Civil War. Also, when he gets
pulled
that's right.
Out. When he gets pulled back in.
So he's been retired for a little while now.
and then house arrest, and then
Ronan, house arrest, and then Ronan. Yeah, he's dealt with some shit. I mean, he's like, So then Clint goes ahead and tracks down the Ronan suit in an NYC Loppers event in Central Park, which is apparently mostly full of cops and firefighters are the ones doing this whole thing.
My favorite scene. I absolutely loved it.
Go ahead, take it.
Well, so I knew those things were out there until you see role models. You ever see role models?
Yes, that's exactly what came to mind.
I saw that and I died laughing. Every time I watch that movie, I die laughing with the LARPers. So I think it's fantastic. So when I saw that he was going to a LARP thing, I was like, this is going to be fantastic. And it was. From the moment he got there. And my favorite part, though, of course, is not only did he kick the shit out of everybody, but they had the whole slow motion, super choreographed moves and it's going through them like they were not even there.
And he's so disinterested.
Beautiful. Yeah. It was so easy for him to get rid of these LARPers. And I love the fact that he made it slow motion and like technical. Yeah. Like it wasn't just like he was like spinning around. I loved it. That was my favorite scene in both episodes so far.
My favorite line of his though with that is like he's acting out with it and he's like, and I fought Thanos.
Yeah,
thinking of the whole thing. I was like, wow, look where the hell I've been.
I love the ultimatum he gives the guy too. He's like, look, I could just hit you with the sword and kill you and take your armor, or I could punch you in the face, knock you out, and take the armor. What do you want? The guy's like, just let me kill you and I'll take the armor. And I was actually watching it going, is he gonna like double cross him or anything? I was happy he didn't. I was happy that they were like had a really nice moment where after like he does best him in battle, which is hysterical, that he's like, thanks, man. That was the best moment of my life. And that guy has one of the greatest lines, I think, when he's like, you get to be a superhero every day. This is the closest I get. And I think, that's what LARPing and role-playing is about, right? It's like you want to be this extra special force for good or evil, whatever you're into. And it's like Hawkeye gets to be that. And this guy's just like, give me this moment. And the fact that Hawkeye does, super cool.
So speaking of Thanos, by the way, we do see two moments where he's also brought up as well. Well, two other moments. So when Clint is in a urinal talking to the guy and he's trying to get an autograph from while he's taking a piss, breaking the total man code. We all know that's like, you don't do that. You just do your business, man. Stop.
First I thought.
And Hawkeye gives him that look like you're breaking the man code, man. Get out. What are you doing?
But then he goes to the sink and he's like, "Oh, is this a better situation there?" They see that someone wrote on a urinal, though, that Thanos was right. Then we also see Clint drinking out of a mug that says Thanos was right. Tim has said a couple of times throughout the time Thanos was right. So apparently, this is the thing. I thought it was smart for them to bring this into the MCU now. To say, all right, it's been an online thing and people joked and made all these comments about it, but they've snuck it in there. I was also thinking about what is like Clint's real reaction to that, of seeing that that's even like a mentioning thing after he went and fought and did everything he's been through, and people actually having the nerves to go out there and write Thanos is right. I feel
like as a hero, and like we said, this is a super humanizing of Clint if he wasn't human enough already. So like as a hero, like his call to action is just doing things for the good of people. So to see something like that, honestly, like diminishes all of his work, his loss, like, and I think that can be attributed to why he's so jaded. Like, don't call me Hawkeye, don't call me a hero. If people in the public can post and write that BS, like, then don't glorify me as a hero, because clearly my efforts were in vain.
Yeah, and that's kind of around the lines I was thinking. It's like, man, that's really got to hit him pretty hard there.
I mean, I kind of think it must be like if you were a firefighter during 9/11, right, who really put yourself out there, and a lot of them got sick and everything, and then you go on the internet and you have these groups of people who claim it's a hoax or it's an inside job or it's a conspiracy, and it's like, well, why are you? No, you weren't there. How can you defend any part of this? And I think that's kind of thematically what they were going with, because I've said this before, and I'll say this when we get to do Avengers, that I do think the attack of New York is an allegory, a comic book allegory for 9/11. And so I don't think that this echo of that, I think it has to do with the Thanos is right that people say, but I also think it also has to do with the outcrop of conspiracy theories that came out after 9/11 as well.
Yeah. That's a good point there.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry, I gotta go, but I just want to say real quick. My other favorite scene was the tribute, which I like to call to Natasha, to where he gets caught on purpose.
Yes, we were gonna get that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to say that was my second favorite scene, other than the LARPing. I love the first two episodes. You guys go do what you gotta do. I gotta get out, but yeah, man, it was good seeing you guys again, and hopefully we'll catch you next week on another show.
It was a pleasure, Tim.
As always, Tim.
All right, guys, catch you later.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get to some of the quick comments here before we keep moving on. Our buddy Bert, I'm happy they're doing an MCU show in New York. Absolutely. And saying it just feels right. So we're all in New York. Bert actually lives in Florida. But did you get the feel while watching these two episodes that we both know that they shot on location? To me, it gave me a feeling of kind of like the Netflix shows did, where you could see real places and in the action.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It did have that feel, and And especially coming from, you and I just did like the Raimi Spider-Verse, which are awesome movies, but it's like, if you are from New York, there are glaring problems that you will not have if you are not from New York. So I do love seeing this, where it's like, like Peter Parker leaves his house in Forest Hills and catches the bus on Queens Boulevard in Sunnyside. Like, come on, guys, get your shit together here. But no, but like in this, there wasn't that. It looked like New York. It felt like New York. There was consistency in what they were doing, and I agree. Yeah, I think it worked.
Yeah, and I think it was also because of the scope of the show felt smaller than WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki, because, I mean, they were talking about multiverse, breaking space-time and all this stuff. And Falcon and Winter Soldier was low. Exactly. Falcon and Winter Soldier, even though, we're dealing with, like, more or less, humans and stuff like that, not like, people dealing with, like, magic and stuff. That was still, like, a global adventure that was across the globe. This is very contained to Manhattan so far. And that's why it gave me the feel of like the Netflix shows all over again, which I adore the Netflix shows. So, still to this day, I'm praying that they become official canon. Shortly.
Agreed.
We'll talk about that.
I definitely felt a nostalgic feel because I too love the Netflix shows. So I was while watching it, I was like, wow, this reminds me of watching season 1 of Daredevil. I was like, this is nice. This is real. This is like gritty. And like we spent a lot of time watching a lot of special effects, a lot of grandiose battles between like gods and near gods. So it was nice to see an Avenger take a piss.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, exactly.
That's a great way to put it.
It is a great. I didn't even realize that. That's a great way to put it. You're never going to see the Hulk take the piss, but Hawkeye, yeah.
And that's something you get in a TV show versus in a movie.
Yeah,
there's no time for anyone to piss. They just piss.
No time to piss. That's
unless you're drunk Tony Stark. Unless you're drunk Tony Stark.
Yes. Then there's always time to piss.
Then you explain the filtration system in the suit, and that's how you piss.
But I think another reason this feels like the Netflix shows is because this is one of the first MCU things, if not the first, that is giving us a genuine street level. You know what I mean? Like hero. Like Spider-Man came close, but Spider-Man had Tony Stark in it, and there were some grandiose things going on in Spider-Man. And, Spider-Man's one of those guys that he's street level until he's a cosmic being, like he can go back and forth.
Spider's all over the place.
Yeah. He's all over the place.
He can catch a truck, but he also punches grunts. Like
right, exactly. That's exactly
in their chest.
Exactly. Like unless he's pulling his punches like Superman.
Yeah.
But I think this is the first MCU property where this is completely street level. And I think that's also why it feels like those Netflix shows, because Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Defenders, Iron Fist.
Just say it. You can say it.
I was putting it last. All right. I was going to say it, but I was putting it last. But they're all street level. And I think that's why this really fits that mold.
Yeah. And we'll get to it in a minute or so, where we're going to, maybe there could be the connection. I don't want to go down the Mephisto track, but we're gonna go there shortly.
But excited.
Clint gets the suit back, stores it in a locker, and that's when we get the conversation, with his wife, which was great to see Linda Cardinelli back and popping in a couple of times, and that was pretty cool. So Kate suspects her stepfather of killing Armand III because we find out he has like the candy wrappers with his name on it, like monogrammed. Mm-hmm. He pops one out. She's like flips out. She's like, "All right, well, he's up to some shit."
He also stole the Ronin sword.
Yes,
and Armand, his uncle, was killed with the sword. And it's also important to mention too, because I don't think we mentioned it, that this guy is about going to marry her mother. Like this guy is engaged to her mother, and there's some obviously shady business going on. So she's really distrustful of him.
Yeah, and they have this like fencing battle that's there. Like she gets to show off what she's got. He admits he's been holding back, and then she kind of just tries to like out him of like, you're up to some shit, like let's go, I'm going to show it to my mother, I'm going to show everything that's there. But then, as Tim mentioned, Clint goes ahead and tells his wife he's going to go and try the bait. What is it? The catch and release Natasha move that we saw in the opening scene of Avengers, where Clint allows himself to be captured by the tracksuit mafia in order to find out who the person in charge is, because he wants to know what's up with them. And then Kate goes ahead and tracks him down for a cell phone, and gets herself captured too. Because she doesn't know really what the hell she's doing.
Typical newbie.
Yeah, which I love seeing in this whole thing. But then the episode ends when we get to see Maya Lopez go ahead and appear at the very end of it, who is also Echo, who also we know is getting her own series, because on Disney Plus they made sure that was out there too. Now, Walter, you want to take it away of what else Echo is in the comics at least?
Absolutely. I would love to, because I saw that and I got very excited, because Echo is most commonly known as basically Kingpin's favorite mercenary. She's Kingpin's go-to when he needs to get stuff done. So the fact that she appeared immediately made me go, Charlie Cox? Are we gonna get Vincent D'Onofrio back? Are we gonna get what I really need in this world? Because her character is synonymous with Kingpin in the street level and a lot of Daredevil stuff. And I'm pretty sure there was a run where Kingpin hired her to just take out Matt, period. But then, as women tend to around Matt Murdock, she got the odds for him, because Matt Murdock is just something about that red spandex does it to ladies, I swear. But yeah, her appearance means a lot for the growing belief that Charlie Cox will be back and that Vincent D'Onofrio will be back. So I'm very excited for that. Also, on a representation note, similarly to Eternals, how the character who played, I believe, Makari was a deaf actress. The actress that plays Echo here is also a deaf actress, and she's Native American. They got literally the perfect actress to play the character, because her being deaf and Native American are very integral to her character. So I think that's very cool representation-wise. Marvel's clearly doing the legwork to get the right people doing these roles.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So do we think we're getting Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin in the series? I don't want to go down the route we did with WandaVision when we connected the comic dots and we all ended up with Mephisto. We screamed about Mephisto for weeks.
It was Fly. The Fly was Mephisto, I swear.
I ended up with Mojo, and I still think I was right.
So, Jason, do you think we're going to get the Kingpin from the Netflix Marvel shows? Or do you think we're going to get a bait and switch and just no?
Oh, God.
I think, all right, here's the thing. I don't think it's off the table for Vincent D'Onofrio to be brought into the MCU as the Kingpin. I don't know if we're going to get it in this series. They might set it up in this series. They might talk about Kingpin. They're doing a lot of long game stuff, especially with the multiverse, especially with, because the multiverse, it's not just a matter of there are other dimensions. They're acknowledging the Sonyverse, right? And if you could acknowledge the Sonyverse, you could acknowledge the Netflix verse, which actually is sort of canon to this stuff.
On there, because on the Netflix view, they always acknowledge the MCU. They just never went the other way around.
Right, exactly. And I think Feige's a smart guy. The MCU is smart. There's people in charge, or they know what they're doing. And I think they know that there are certain people, if they try to recast, it's going to rub the fans the wrong way. And I think the fact that we get J. Jonah Jameson in the new Spider movie as the original J. Jonah Jameson, I always forget his name, J.K. Simmons, who is a perfect J. Jonah Jameson. I think the fact that they brought him in as okay, now he's MCU canon, I think that opens the door for it. I don't know if it's going to happen in this show, though. So I would not be surprised if they mention Kingpin, but we never see him. And then D'Onofrio comes in another thing. Would I love to see D'Onofrio in this? Absolutely, because D'Onofrio's his Kingpin is phenomenal. I actually teach. When I did my drama class, I taught his monologue, the Good Samaritan monologue, as like an exemplar of like how you can take a story that is in sort of the knowledge of society and use it to create a monologue that can really represent yourself.
Nice. Well, do I need to ask? Like, are we getting Kingpin? I mean,
I gotta agree with Jason here. I don't think we get him in this series. Especially considering, like, I feel like it's similar to how I'm about to make a wrestling reference. It's similar to how when WWE or WWF at the time like incorporated all the WCW players, they're wrestlers, but then they never gave them a fair shot to be main eventers. I feel like in that same vein, this is Hawkeye's show, and Kingpin is too big. It would be too big of a get for the fans, and it would take the shine off of Hawkeye. We don't want to take the shine off of Hawkeye or Kate, because like we're also not just highlighting his greatness, but also establishing Kate as greatness. And I feel like D'Onofrio had such a following and a fan love that him actually appearing would overwhelm the show. I think it would just be too much. So I feel like hints, potential, and keeping us enticed for the future, because Feige sure knows how to keep me on a short leash. So I see it going like that.
Not even in a post-credit scene of episode 6. I'm reaching. I'm giving all the possibilities I can think of right now.
I just don't want to be Mephisto again.
I agree. That's what.
Yes.
Well, I'm scared to go there again. My heart was broken with Mephisto not happening. We got Ralph Boner. I mean, like, I don't want to commit too much, but it's there. It's so there again.
All right, I'll amend what I said to this. If it happens in this show, it will only happen in the post-credit scene of the last episode.
Okay. For
the exact reasons Walter pointed out, is because if it happens anywhere else, it takes the focus off Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, and this whole show is to sort of give us the Hawkeye we didn't get in the movies and give us enough time with him and set Kate Bishop up and Echo and all that. They're juggling too many things in these 6 episodes they're doing.
6, that's it. So we got 4 more after today.
They're juggling all this stuff with 6 episodes. So I think if it's going to happen, it's only going to happen in the post-credits scene of the last episode.
Okay. All right. So before we move on from Hawkeye to our movie of the week, we got some comments coming in for Lucky the Pizza Dog. From Burke again, and of course, the Pizza Dog, loving that. Also loving the LARP sequence.
It was awesome.
Burke's a contributor on here as well.
I want to LARP now.
Alex is saying the dog is so cute. I already know they're thinking of killing him off.
I would riot.
No.
I would riot.
Listen, I'm a dog lover. I'm a dog lover, and I admit that I'm scared to watch dog movies because every time there's a dog movie, I know that I'm feeling the dog's going to die at the end. Not in the MCU. Not today, sir. Not today. That's not happening.
There are 2 things that are never going to be killed in the MCU on screen. Dogs and children.
Yes, I could agree.
We know dogs and children died in the background of things where lots of people at the Battle of New York. Dogs and children that we know. Yeah, Sokovia, exactly. There were many times where lots of people were killed, and you can assume dogs and children were there. But I don't think we're going to get like Pizza Dog and then have to watch him die.
No, I would riot.
Too dark.
I'm with Walt on that one. That's too much. You're crossing the line.
And Ed, do you know this? I don't know if you know this, but there is a website called Does the Dog Die, where you can go and see in every movie there's a dog, apparently. If the dog survives. So you never have to worry again. If you think a dog's going to die, you pause it. You go to doesthedogdie.com or whatever it is.
I just don't watch the movie. It's not even going to bother getting into it. We got a few new watchers here. We got Alexa Soto.
Thanks for joining us, Alexa.
And Ola. What's up, Alexa?
Hola.
Also, giving some clapping going on here. And we got Melanie.
Melanie, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight. We super appreciate it.
Before we get off Hawkeye, guys, can
Yeah.
I just put out one analogy that I've been meaning to say to it? I need a platform for this analogy, and it relates to something you said a little while ago, Ed, about how the Netflix shows always referred to the MCU, but it was never the other way around. And I always felt like the Netflix shows were like the little brother who's a freshman in high school, but the older brother's a senior. And I'm like, yeah, you know, my brother, man, my brother. It's so great.
I love
and then
so
the older
much.
brother just comes to school and just ignores him every day.
It's rough, man. It's rough on a little brother.
Daredevil walks into school and the teacher's like, "Hey, you're Thor's small little brother, right? You know Thor, you know Captain America, right?"
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be just like him when I grow up.
That's a great analogy, man.
That is actually great. That's pretty great. And one more little thing about Hawkeye, Alex chiming in. I'm not going to be upset if we don't get Kingpin, but I'm still hoping, as we are. We're just being scared to commit because we've had our hearts broken before. It's good enough, though. We get Yelena and Echo. We are getting Yelena.
I forgot about Yelena.
Oh, no. She's got some shit. Her targets are set on Hawkeye. Yeah. I mean, because Val's still kicking up some shit, man. Like saying that go ahead and kill Natasha. Fuck.
And I gotta say, I love the MCU's idea right now of building, like, obviously building up the Thanos was such a huge buildup. Now that they're building up a street level and then also like grander things such as Kang, like simultaneously, I love that.
Yeah, and you could take it into so many directions. And I think overall, like, well, actually, we haven't had a chance to bring it to you, but I know Jason and I have discussed it. We believe this is going to end up going towards Avengers Secret Wars, as we think Avengers 5 will be titled, and that will be in Phase 5.
Okay.
We think that, but clearly the picture's not super crystal clear yet. They're playing with the multiverse. Like you said, they're setting up street level stuff. They're setting up so many different things that it's not like when Phase 1, 2, and 3, where it was like, oh yeah, Infinity Stone here, Infinity Stone here. We're good. We know where this is all going. Thanos sitting in his chair, sitting in a chair again, more chair Thanos. And we get it.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, fine, okay. Whatever. I'll get out of the chair for once. I mean, if I got to.
If I gotta get up, guys, I'm killing y'all.
Are you on a Secret Wars train too? Or what's your guess of where this is headed overall? Like, who's the next big bad?
100% no idea. The biggest bad has to be Kang. Like,
yeah,
for all intents and purposes, it has to be Kang. And I was actually saying that at work a couple weeks ago. Be it that Kang is the eventual big bad, and I know I felt such closure with how Cap's story ended, but something about Kang and time, I feel like is related to Captain America, and just the idea of seeing them face off like a soldier out of time. So my dream that probably won't come true is them plucking a young Cap to face off against Kang at some point, because that would bring tears to my eyes. But that aside, I have no idea where this is going, but I think the Thunderbolts is something that is being built up, like a team of like anti-heroes, like led by U.S. Agent, who I'm a huge fan of. Everyone hates this guy's guts. I love him.
John Walker was awesome. He ended up being so awesome.
I did like him in Falcon Winter Soldier.
He's a victim of circumstance, and I feel like any of us would react the exact same way.
Probably.
Walter, I'll tell you this: if you and I were ever in teacher combat, as my co-teacher, because Walter is my co-teacher at work, if someone took you down, I'd take them down. I would go all 100%. John Walker with my shield and everything
in broad daylight.
That's right. With all the students recording it.
All right, so you're believing Val's building the Thunderbolts, not the Dark Avengers.
No, I don't think, because I feel like the way they left off, admittedly, Val the whole Yelena go get like Hawkeye, that's pretty goddamn evil. Because Hawkeye's a good guy. But I feel like at the end of Winter Soldier, I didn't feel to me that US agent or John Walker was a bad man. I just felt like he had rough means, but his ends were still good. I never got the feeling that he was a genuine evil person. And Val seems like sneaky and whatnot, but I still don't see like legitimate pure evil. And that's what I feel like Dark Avengers is a little bit more like. The Thunderbolts are like a middle ground. Yeah, a little bit more sinister. And the Thunderbolts are like a middle ground. But if that is the case, though, now that we're talking it out loud, I have to think, who the hell are they going to fight? So I don't know.
But that's kind of like a refreshing thing we've talked about here, though, is that we always knew where it was leading up to before with Infinity Gauntlet. Now it's like, could be the Dark Avengers, could be the Thunderbolts. Wait, there's Avengers. For those of us who believe it's leading to Secret Wars eventually.
Yeah.
Then Phase 4 ends with Fantastic Four. We know who their main villain is, who is also the main antagonist in Secret Wars. And all the Secret Wars, Doctor Doom is all over the place. And I think Doctor Doom is big bad level, Thanos level, not just Fantastic Four.
100%. Unfortunately, the public concept, like vision of him has been skewed by some poor representation, but people don't understand. Like, I get into a lot of internet arguments. People are like, Dr. Doom's not that. But I'm like, this man is a sorcerer. You don't even know that.
Exactly.
He goes to hell annually by will. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not just a guy with a scarred face who's upset that and butthurt over Sue Storm.
Yeah,
calling the people at Reed. Like, it's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, Doom is a super deep character.
Oh, we know your love for Doom is.
Yeah, I have Doom. Look, I'm going to promise you this, that when we do one of the next Fantastic Four movies on this show, I'm going to wear my Doom mask because I have a metal Doom mask mounted in my on a stand in my living room, which almost caused me to get divorced about like 30 seconds after I got married because my wife left it up to me to unpack stuff and put stuff up. And I put it up in the living room, like very prominently in our first apartment when we got married. And she came home and she went, "Why is that out?"
It's a statement piece.
It is. Look, I said it was a conversation piece, and let me tell you something. No one has ever come to my apartment and not had a conversation with me about that Doom mask.
That's a fair point. All right, so I guess let's move on from the MCU and get into our continued look back at the theatrical Spider-Verse with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, this is it. It's the only animated adventure that we get here out of it. And I think for Jason and I, we are refreshing ourselves of having to deal with Spider-Man 3 and the both Amazing Spider-Man movies. And Walter's reaction there says it. He got a taste of what we did.
Kudos to you guys. Because I couldn't.
Thank God Eternals gave us a break.
I want to go on record as saying you said both Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I think you're mistaken because I know for a fact, and maybe it's the Mandela effect happening to you. There was only one Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movie because the second never came to fruition because no one was stupid enough to greenlight it.
The internet has receipts. We'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. They know what happened. Okay. But yeah, let's jump into it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018. Walt, you want to kick us off with this? Because I mean, you were very eager to bring us Miles Morales and your love for the character and we were souping up to this for a while. So listen, lead us through this. Take us through.
It all started when I was born. No. I will say this. I will give a bit of a history lesson about Miles Morales and genesis of the character. And surprisingly, it all started with Donald Glover which is the funniest thing in the entire world. To
What,
those of you that
Donald?
are not aware.
Really?
Oh, Jason, you weren't aware.
No, I
let
knew
me
Donald
I was
fill you in.
aware of this.
I knew he was a huge fan. I knew that he was a big proponent. I didn't know that the character was created because of him.
There was a huge internet uproar, and it was called #Donald for Spider-Man. And this was, around the time that I believe this is before Andrew Garfield got cast. So those probably make your lives a lot easier if Donald Glover was Spider-Man instead of Andrew Garfield. Or
why can't we be in that multiverse?
But
sorry.
There was a huge internet calling for Donald Glover as Spider-Man, and he even spoke about it in a stand-up special that he did called Weirdo. You should both check it out. He speaks on it, and he says a lot of people were very upset because they were like, Spider-Man's not black. And one of his funniest bits in that stand-up is that he says a lot of people were arguing on the internet, and they said, well, what if Michael Cera was Shaft? And that was an argument that people used to defend why he should not be Spider-Man.
See, that part I never heard. I knew about the Donald Glover thing, but Jesus.
Donald Glover's response to this was, I would love to see Michael Cera as Shaft.
Let's start at #Michael Cera as Shaft.
But yes, after a long period of time, Miles Morales came from that. He was like born of that idea of having an African-American Spider-Man. He ended up being an Afro-Latino Spider-Man. And even on one of the animated shows, the Spider-Man animated show, Donald Glover actually voiced Miles Morales in an animated appearance that he had in, I believe the show was Ultimate Spider-Man.
I believe it was.
I believe that was
okay, yeah.
That was the name of the show. And he voiced him in like a couple episodes, which is really cool. As for this movie, when it was first announced, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe that he was actually going to be a Spider-Man movie that was not Peter Parker. Like when they first heard rumors of it, I was like, oh, cool, a series, that'd be cool. But a movie, a budgeted movie that was released in theaters, and Peter Parker wasn't the main Spider-Man. That was really cool for me. Representation-wise, I thought that was super awesome. And then not only that, but it followed through and was a great, great film.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is that they really crushed it with this movie. Like, we could have gotten everything, and then suddenly if it drops the ball, then you're like, all right, well, who knows? We may never hear of Miles again. No one's going to take the chance again for a big budget Spider-Man movie like that. But like I said, they just knocked it out of the park. I think they crushed it on every level with this. Like, focusing it on Miles, bringing in the one I didn't think we ever were really going to see after the announcement from Miles was Gwen Stacy. We actually got Spider-Gwen. I was like, holy shit.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then getting Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir.
Don't get me started.
Never would have thought I made that connection in a million years.
One of my favorite moments of that movie, and I have so many of them, one of them is when they first meet the Spider-Man Noir, and he's like hanging there, and his coat is dangling, and they're like, where's the wind coming from?
like where in the basement?
I go.
Yes.
And then his fascination with Rubik's Cube. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He sees everything in black and white. Was great.
When I watched that last night, Walter, that reminded me of you because of your Rubik's Cube skills.
I saw Rubik's Cube.
Nice. And we got to see Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham is joining us right now. And if anyone is surprised that I own a Spider-Ham action figure, then you haven't been paying attention.
No, you really haven't.
You give me a Pip action figure, I will buy the shit out of that.
And we get Penny Parker also, too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, Don Mulaney did a fantastic job of bringing Spider-Ham to life.
He did. He was really funny.
He crushes it. If you get a chance to watch on Vudu, or if you have the Blu-ray, I own the Blu-ray on it. There's a little side adventure they have with Peter Parker and everything like that, which I think is absolutely hilarious as well. Nice. We get Penny Parker also. This Spider-Verse still very different. Am I the only one did you guys? Well, did you read Spider-Verse? The comic
I have,
version? Yeah. Okay, which was a very, very different storyline. Much like a darker storyline
Yes.
to go with there. But like, yeah, because I mean, we were literally seeing Spider-Man like being off like constantly throughout that thing. Yeah, like quite a bit. But I think this changing it up was a really smart idea because I was curious to know, I had read Spider-Verse at that point when they announced the film, where were they going to go with this? Like, how far were they going to push the Spider-Verse concept? How dark would they get with it? But making it mostly a Miles Morales origin story, I thought was a smart move because, again, like you said, to the mainstream, a lot of people don't know who Miles is, and this really explains it and presents him in such a fantastic way.
Oh,
and I'll tell you something. Sorry, go ahead. So I'll tell you something. I am someone who was not familiar with Miles Morales before this movie because I read comic books in the 90s and I'll here and there, like, you know, if someone says, hey, there's this crossover event you got to read. So like I read like Civil War and stuff, but I don't really have time to read a lot of comics. So I knew of Miles Morales. I'd heard of him. This is the first time I really got to see him in action. And so as someone who wasn't familiar with the character, wasn't familiar with the Spider-Verse run, wasn't familiar with a lot of stuff that was brought up here, I was so blown away about how fantastic it was. Like, actually, one of my new favorite characters from this movie is the Prowler. Like, I love the Prowler. Because it's such a complex villain, and there's that wonderful scene between them where Miles pulls he's about to kill him. Miles pulls his hood off, and like it's just a beautiful scene where the Prowler kind of takes he knows that Kingpin's going to gun for him, and he kind of takes it. And then when I played the Miles Morales PlayStation game, which was the sequel to Spider-Man, this was the Spider-Man Miles Morales. That made my Prowler love even more there because he's such a great character in that game, and it's like that the dynamic between Miles Morales and the Prowler makes me want to revisit a lot of these comics. So like this movie made me a fan of this sort of section of the Spider-Man franchise that I wasn't aware of before.
So ironically, I hated the Amazing Spider-Man so much after I saw the first one. It forced me back into reading the comics again because I was like, man, if this is the only Spider-Man I'm going to get, I got to get something. And I went back and started reading the comics, and it was around that time when Miles had been introduced and things like that, and they had the Spider-Man run where he was, it's a mini series where he meets, 616 Peter Parker.
Peter, yes.
And I thought that was really cool, and that was kind of like somewhat my introduction to Miles. And I'm like, I really dig this guy. I dig the character. I like the different, spin on it. That he's not from Queens, he's from Brooklyn.
Yep.
And his origin story, he was also bitten by a spider too. Thankfully, they didn't say it was the same spider, like with the Silk. And they brought out Cindy Moon, like, oh yeah, by the way, the spider got away and happened to bite somebody else. So knock yourself out. That's shoehorning.
Worst villain in the MCU, the Spider.
The Spider.
He's running around spiting people.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the film gave me it furthered my love for the character. I did not play the video game because I've been on and off retired from video games for like a while. But this movie just made me really enjoy the character even like that much more. His relationship with the Prowler as his uncle and like that is extremely deep.
So good.
And his interactions with Peter, well, I guess both Peter Parkers, because he does meet his universe's Peter Parker, which I think is an interesting way to look at it because that Peter Parker was like perfect. He was like the unattainable Peter Parker. He had like the blonde. They gave him blonde hair, which made me think of like Ben Reilly immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also they set up it's the Raimi Tobey Maguire Peter Parker. Like they do set that up where he's like, and then I did this, and he does the guns, and they kind of make the joke. So
stops the train, taxi getting through the window, he does it all.
Exactly. So even if it's not in that universe, and even if it's not meant to be Tobey Maguire, it's definitely meant to be that Peter Parker, and I think that's the Peter Parker that the movie fans imagine is the perfect Peter Parker. So I thought that was interesting that they made that connection.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing is that they made him unattainable too, because that's not really Spider-Man's like jam. Like he's always broken. He's always struggling. And that's why I think Peter B. Parker, who we meet, voiced by John Johnson, is more of the Peter Parker that we're all familiar with. Not really the one who died in Miles's universe.
that Peter Parker is like wishing he died when he was younger. It's like...
he's got the gut going. He broke up with MJ, didn't want to have kids and all of this stuff. And
I also love that
sweats.
That's what I was going to say. I love that he fights most of his battles in sweatpants, and everyone says, "Oh, you're a bit rounder than normal."
Yeah, and Olivia Octavius is the one who's like, "Oh yeah, that was through the portal, right?" Like when you go ahead, he was like, "Yeah, definitely. That's kind of what always happens," and and all of that. But Miles's relationship with both of them, I think, is very interesting because the way he sees his Peter Parker is like what kind of like gets Miles shook in a way where he's like, man, I have to live up to this. Like the perfect guy who did it always great and everything, gave hope to the city and hope to everyone else and had all this stuff. And he's got a friggin' bat cave essentially of 1,000 suits and all of this crap. But his mentor ends up, and he even says this, why did I get stuck with like the broke Peter Parker or the broke Spider-Man at one point? But he's the one who does truly show him the ropes of, like you don't have to be perfect. You got to kind of just do it your way and do your thing and be yourself, man. Like be Spider-Man the way you want to be Spider-Man instead of trying to live up to this guy.
I feel like Stan Lee says it best when he sells him that janky, tiny Spider-Man costume. He says like he's like, I don't think this will fit, and he's like, it always does. Like eventually, it shows that you're gonna. It's not like you're gonna grow. Like the suit's gonna grow to fit you, but you're gonna grow into the suit and become that Spider-Man you're supposed to be, which is very beautiful thematically.
Which I also find that this, man, like, I don't know what it was, but maybe this Stan Lee cameo, or maybe it's because I watched it after he's passed now and stuff. Well, he had passed when the movie came out because they did tribute it too. This was like one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos.
Agreed.
Because of his whole interaction with Miles and the way he says this whole thing. It's almost kind of like his version of with great power comes great responsibility thing.
Right.
Or as we said in the Amazing Spider-Man, Peter, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, yeah.
That was his version of it.
Can I drop my first bit of Spider-Verse trivia?
Please.
Go for it.
That is not the only Stan Lee cameo in the film, and the producers have confirmed it. And I have screenshots that I'll get you guys to post on the Granny Speech Facebook page.
Nice,
but there are several other moments where you can see him, and the producers have said we also put Stan in like pretty much every group shot in the movie. So like,
wow,
but it's too fast for you to see. Okay. Like there are moments where he's there. They put him in like scenes and you can't even spot him, but he's there. But there is two other moments where you can see it clearly. One of which is on a train that's zooming by. You can see him sitting in a window on a train. And also this one you can spot with your eyes if you just look very closely. I challenge you guys to go back and watch it. After Miles is swinging with unconscious Peter B. Parker, and they fall off the train and they fall on the sidewalk, Stan Lee steps over them.
Oh, wow.
So that's something for you guys to go check out. Stan Lee just steps over them when they're in the street.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about. I'm going to check it out before the next episode.
Wait, an excuse to go watch this again? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know. Oh, twist my arm. Guys, I had so much fun with this. I didn't even take any notes. I was like, I'm just going to talk about it because usually the more notes I take, the more ridiculous or stupid I think things are or whatever. But if I take no notes, it means that I was just purely enjoying the experience.
Truth be told, I did not take notes either because I know the movie by heart with that.
Yeah.
Except for I got to say that Walt dropped me in with those two. Now I got to go back again.
Well, I mean,
and go find Stan Lee.
Walter is on this episode because he's the Miles Morales into the Spider-Verse expert.
Hello.
That's great. I love it. I think I guess the only thing I wish they would have put into this, and Walt, I'm gonna, you had read Spider-Verse too, is the moment we get in the comics where Peter 616 Peter sees Spider-Gwen for the first time, and it's like a thing.
Yes.
That's something we didn't get in here, and I was hoping we were going to get.
I agree. That moment in the comics is like a very touching moment. I've seen it reproduced all over the internet, and it is definitely a moment that I feel like should have been incorporated or referenced in some way, shape, or form, because they've now set up this Miles and Gwen relationship, which is cool too. But like the history of Peter and Gwen and their tragic love, that is something that I feel like should have been referred. And they do kind of say that in Gwen telling her backstory that the tragedy did happen with Peter, so it is referred to. But
I wanted to see it the other way around. Like I wanted Peter B. Parker to mention, like at least hesitate for a second and be like, Gwen Stacy. Oh wow, wait, like. Yeah, I need to sit. I need a minute for this.
I'll be honest. I agree with you. I think that would have been cool. But I think for a movie, we get that moment from Peter B. Parker with MJ, and I think because we are in the time constraint of a movie, which is like 2 hours, as opposed to I don't know how many issues this ran, but I mean you have more wiggle room to do things in a comic book. I think just time wise, I think you have to make the choice. Do you want Peter B. Parker to react to Gwen Stacy or to MJ? And I think his whole arc was he divorced MJ. Him and MJ got divorced. He wasn't happy about it. So it might have just been a time thing. I agree with you guys. It would have been better for the story, but I kind of see why the movie didn't include it.
Yeah, and I think it definitely would have been Peter B. Parker that would have had this situation with Gwen, because I feel like other Peter Parker were like, oh yeah, I saved her, no problem. Yeah. I saved Gwen Stacy, and we decided to break up.
I think Peter B. Parker is our Peter Parker from the comic books that we grew up with.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why it was like, yes, this is definitely our Spider-Man. Yeah, so I think that was something that I just thought was a little bit like that could have been included. And yeah, like you mentioned, Nick, Gwen mentions her relationship with her Peter Parker, who in the comics, though, her Peter Parker's story is tragic because he feels like Gwen is like saving him and sticking up for him and is like, fighting off the bullies. So he tries to screw around and invents a serum that makes himself the Lizard. And he ends up going like crazy and ends up dying.
Read this run.
It's Spider-Verse is dope. Yeah. It gets really crazy. So we also get a Kingpin here, which I think
who is amazing.
Yeah,
yes,
he's
he really
awesome.
Is.
He's no D'Onofrio, but he's amazing.
Yeah.
I agree. Ray Donovan himself, going in and voicing like this Kingpin was intimidating. The size of him was like completely crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I also love, and I forgot about this on my second rewatch, but I love that he's not trying to get more power or to get money. Like, by opening up these multiverses, he's trying to get his family back. Yeah. And I think that really humanizes him. And I think the fact that you only find that out close to the end or like right in the middle, like, it really kind of pulls a fast one on the audience if you don't know, as I didn't know what the comic was about, because of course you think the Kingpin is just doing things because he wants power or money or whatever. And even when he says to Peter Parker that he kills that Peter Parker Prime from Miles Morales' world, he says it's not all about money. And you think, and I thought like, oh yeah, no, it's about power, something else. But when you find out it's really about his family, it humanizes him in a way that I think the D'Onofrio version also humanizes him, right? And I think that's why this Kingpin works so much for me, because he looks like a comic book. He is an arch villain like a comic book. He talks like a comic book arch villain, but his motives are not that. His motives are very human. And I think that dichotomy just works perfectly in this movie.
Yeah, and like classic Spider-Man fashion, he's a relatable villain.
Right.
Like, gets humanized at some point.
Right, but I think that unless you are a reader of Spider-Man, if you only know Spider-Man through cartoons and movies, you don't realize that he's a humanized villain. You know what I mean?
Of course,
like,
no.
we didn't see that. We saw that with D'Onofrio, but we didn't see that in the Daredevil movie that he was in with the Ben Affleck Daredevil. We didn't see that in any of the cartoons, the Spider-Man cartoons that we saw. He's usually taken as like a villain's villain.
Yeah, and like a caricature of a henchman, like a mob boss, like
exactly.
Yeah.
But this movie takes great pains to make it more accurate to the comic and show that human side of it. And the fact that this is a cartoon and this is the comic book movie that is trying to explore the human side of these characters, I think it's just so brilliant in the way it's set up.
Yeah, and I also love the twist with Catherine Hahn as Olivia Octavius.
Oh, that's great.
Which I admittedly didn't see coming the first time I saw this.
That one caught me.
That one caught me, I admit it.
Because she looks like a hippie at first.
Yeah.
She looks like she's trying to save the planet, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I can't wait to watch it happen. Like, you're going to destroy yourself on our planet. I can't wait our dimension. I can't wait to watch it happen. And then the tentacles come out and grab Peter B by the throat.
And here's the whole line of like, yeah, and I'm sure your friends call you Doc Ock, right?
Yeah. My enemies call me Doc Ock. What is it? My friends call me Val?
Oh, Val. No, Liv.
Yeah.
Liv. That's it. Liv.
Yeah. And actually, Aunt May ends up calling her that later on when they have the whole battle in the house and everything like that, which I thought was really funny. And this Aunt May, by the way, is pretty awesome.
I love this Aunt May.
She has been through the ringer clearly, and I feel like given that we know that the blonde Peter Parker of this universe is closely synonymous to Raimi, I have the headcanon that this is the younger of the Raimi Aunt May, because she was a badass. Like, she would whack Doc Ock with her umbrella. She was a badass.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, no. When she hits Doc Ock with that umbrella, it's like, you're not going to hurt him and you know it, but you don't give a shit. You're a feisty old lady who's trying to
fighting.
That's right.
And this Aunt May is like almost like Alfred in a way. Like, she's just like,
she is
kind of like
she's
helping
the man
it. She's in the battle.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love how she lies to them when they show up. Like, oh, not lies to them, but like doesn't give them all the information. They're like, oh, you're from another dimension. How do you know that? Well, I know things. Oh, where did Peter do his work? Oh, I'll show you. You go down there and it's like, oh, by the way, you aren't the first spider people to come see me. And it's like, well, you knew this up there. Why didn't you tell me that up there?
And by the way, I love the fact that they had the Spider-Mobile in there and everything like that. Like tons of like random like references. Yeah.
Yep.
Tons
the PS4 Spider-Man, his suit is in there.
Yeah.
Is in his office. Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. One of the suits he has locked up. Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah, and we do get an emotion. Sorry, go ahead.
Before we completely abandon Kingpin, because I had another piece of trivia that I made a list of trivia, and I'm just like, whenever someone mentions something that relates to my list of trivia, I'm gonna drop it in there. So
we're here for it.
So it's kind of like bingo. And Jason, you mentioned the Daredevil movie with Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. So another little Easter egg in the final fight scene between Miles and Kingpin, and they're showing like alternate versions of Kingpin's family appearing, like glitching in and out. One of them consists of an African-American woman and an African-American son, if you're looking really closely, as a reference to Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin. And then there's also a glitchy moment where you see a mother and son, and the son is Matt Murdock. So you can see a quick glimpse of a kid with red hair and dark glasses on the train with them in the final scene. I'm going to give you guys all these screenshots at the end of the show later tonight, and you guys will be able to post them whenever.
And we're going to post them, and then I'm going to rewatch this movie at some point with those
yourself?
screenshots in mind so I can see them myself. Yes.
Well, just post them to the page. Just post them to the Facebook group. Go for it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
As mentioned on our episode tonight.
Gotcha.
I was trying to actually think, was there a comic run when that there was a connection there between Matt and it wasn't Daredevil no more. Was it where there was a relationship between Fisk and Matt?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere, some of that, because I read Spider-Man Noir before this came out, so I was familiar with him before he came into this. But I know there was a Daredevil Noir, and I thought they had a whole wacky backstory that had spun everything on its head. No, I don't know. Maybe that was the case.
I think a Daredevil Noir would be awesome too. By the way,
Yes,
I think
100%.
Yeah,
it's got some crazy stuff. So I guess then we can move on to the other changes that they made to villains, like Scorpion. Is completely different. Not Matt Gordon at all. Like I don't even. Did they say his real name?
I'd have to look that up because I actually don't know.
No, I don't think it's ever mentioned. I mean, he just kind of shows up and kicks ass a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but again, I think they established this as such a different multiverse. Like,
yeah,
we have, Doc Ock is not Otto Octavius in this, right? So it's like I thought he was cool. I liked what they did with the Scorpion. It wasn't like the comic book accurate Scorpion from what I'm used to, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought he kicked ass, and I thought his presence was awesome.
And we also get an actual massive goblin as Norman Osborn turning into the Green Goblin.
We do, and I want to point out that, if the movie we reviewed last week existed, I would say that this makes it work. This makes it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that movie doesn't exist, so there's nothing to compare this to, but I did enjoy it.
So the visuals in this film, by the way, so in the beginning of the movie, we get the comics approved authority stamp, which I had a kind of feeling we were in for an awesome ride once I saw that. Because I'm like, all right, so these guys really are going in and doing their homework with this. Dude, the animation style for this movie is mind-blowing.
Phenomenal.
Never been done before.
No, nothing like this before. It's like 3D without 3D or something like that. I don't even know how to properly describe it.
Yeah, it's not animation necessarily 100%, and it's not computer graphics 100%. Somewhere it seems like it's somewhere in the middle.
It looks like comic pages. It looks like moving comic pages.
And absolutely, that's it. This is a living, breathing comic book.
And it's just, I mean, wow, because I know for the sequel, they're talking about they were going to up the animation style even more. And I'm like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, where do you go?
Damn. Yeah, and I definitely sense the comedy of Philip Lord throughout the film and stuff like that. Like you can kind of just get that sense that's there. If you're familiar, he did the Jump Street movies, which I absolutely adore both of them. I think they're both hilarious, as well as the Lego movie. Both Lego movies. I like the first one more than the second, but you can definitely sense his sense of comedic tone in here, and a very strong understanding of the source material, which is always a big thing. And we get kind of wishy-washy with Sony doing Spider-Man movies on their own without the help of Kevin Feige, but this is the one where they prove they can get it done if they hire the right person. And then Venom Let There Be Carnage, not so much.
Hey,
at least in our opinion, the two of us. Actually, Walt, I don't know what you thought of Venom or Venom Let There Be Carnage, but
they existed.
We're on the same page.
Out of my favorite moment from those two full, complete feature-length films was the post-credit of the second one. So,
yep.
The one that connects it to the MCU.
Yes,
exactly.
The one that brings it to something tolerable. So
save us. Please save us.
Feige, you'll make it okay. I have another piece of trivia, guys. You're doing great on bingo so far, guys. And this one is in reference to just animation in general. Throughout the entirety of the film, Miles himself is animated at a slower frame rate than the other Spider-Man until he finally becomes a full-fledged Spider-Man. And this is something that's part of that weird feeling you get when you're seeing the movie and it seems weird and not right. He is actually, his character model alone by itself is animated at a slower frame rate than the other Spider-Man in the film.
That's
So
wild.
and he does not match up with their frame rate until that final fight scene when he takes the leap of faith and which is the best moment in the movie and one of the best cinematic moments ever. I hope we get to talk about that. But after he takes the leap of faith, he is then for the rest of the movie animated at the same frame rate as the other Spider-Man, which explains why he looks even more smooth than just because he's actually doing the maneuvers, but he looks crisper. His animation gets better as he becomes a better Spider-Man.
Didn't know that, but I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But
okay.
What a wonderful choice, like symbolically.
Symbolically, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Again, now look, Walter, after talking to you with this, because you and I have never really discussed this. We were saving it for the show.
I was saving it for the show. I didn't say anything. I talked to Ed about it before. Had to save it.
I'm going to rewatch this movie with all of the trivia you have given me, so I can absorb it on my own. Because A, I love this movie, and I can rewatch it tomorrow. And B, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. This is awesome.
Well, Walt, go ahead. So, expand on the leap of faith moment with Miles when he becomes Spider-Man.
Oh my goodness! One of my favorite moments in animation history, might be movie history. Everything about it is just, and as I've seen a movie, I am not ashamed to say like 10, 15, maybe. I've watched it a lot of times. All right, and there are just so many little details that go into the scene that makes it even better for me every time I watch it. For example, the fact that Peter B. Parker tells him earlier in the movie, like, when he's nervous or when he's like emotionally compromised, his powers don't work as well. He doesn't stick as well. That's why the glass breaks when he jumps off the building, because he's still nervous in that moment. He's still not fully sure of himself. Like, that is the moment. That's something I didn't get in my first watch through. And then the producers and directors have said, like, the thematic visual of him, he's jumping off of a building, but you see him rising. Like, they don't show him falling. They show the city is upside down and he is rising to the position of like being New York Spider-Man. And also just the song, like, come on, what's up, Danger? So that's
that
one
was
of the most
going to be our opening
songs. like Tobey Maguire had like Hero Nickelback, and Miles gets What's Up, Danger. It's such a great moment. And also, I just triggered my own
bingo
trivia. My own bingo. Early on in the movie, when Miles tries to do his thing and like move around to Spider-Man outside the building, he falls, and it like they hyperimpose the word "ow" on the screen, and it's like, oh, www. But then when he gets his shit together and he's swinging properly, they hyperimpose "woo," so they reverse it. It's W, and he's screaming "woo." So awesome. They reverse his view on being Spider-Man and whatnot. All of that is amazing.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, well, that's what I was going to get into, I think, before we wrap this up, was the soundtrack for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, how many other comic book movie soundtracks are you really going to put up against this? I mean, Black Panther, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What else? I mean, not really.
No. What else? I remember after that, and they were. I believe these movies both came out in the same year. Black Panther and the Spider-Verse, and I remember for a long time the lock screen on my phone was just like an image of Miles Morales' face with like T'Challa's necklace, and I was just like, those are my two favorite albums of the year.
Yeah, no, it's, and you had mentioned in our chat offline, it was just like, dude, for like a year, that was like that was my shit. That was just like going through the whole
yes.
thing. And I still pop on songs randomly, you know, from time to time. What's Up Danger is definitely one of them. That, I mean, it just once it starts kicking in, I mean, it really gets you going. And that's mainly what they use in the film, because it does like take a little while to like kind of like get to that. But the song builds up, and then you can kind of just feel that moment when he takes the leap of faith, and it's pretty spectacular. No pun intended.
It's spectacular. It's amazing. It's the web of.
It's web
Oh
of. Wait, what? Wait, we don't talk about that one. Okay.
I love all the adjectives that describe Spider-Man. My single favorite moment in the entire like Civil War line is this moment where Spider-Man like beats up a bunch of grunts, and like he's like goes like and just an amazing sequence of acrobatic maneuvers and kicking people's asses, and Reed Richards looks up and says, like, he's watching him and just observing him. This is a hero who can stretch and he's watching Spider-Man go to work, and he's just like, amazing. And Spider-Man kicks him in the face and says, no, spectacular.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's great. All right. Do we have anything else for Spider-Verse before we wrap up for tonight? Anything else we wanted to touch on?
Any other trivia you want to drop on us before we're done?
I think you guys got bingo. I mean, I think I've
Hey, bingo!
We've hit all of it. All right.
Yeah. I will say, guys, I did post in the Facebook page the image of Matthew Murdock and of the alternate Michael Clark Duncan version of Kingpin's family. So you guys can see that still image of that there. Yeah.
Nice.
But no, thank you for having me.
No,
thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. It was great to have you. You are our Miles Morales expert. I haven't mentioned this before, but Walter is also my anime sensei. He's been getting me into anime. He got me to watch Death Note, which I loved, and then he bought me an actual Death Note notebook, which I'm toying with an idea of getting a second one and making it my bathroom log out pass. So for students to leave the room, they have to actually write their name in the Death Note.
Wow. So Walt, you're into anime, and like Jason's thing is, you know, his main guy is Batman. He's my number 2 guy. Did you watch Batman Ninja?
I did.
The
animation was beautiful.
That's where you leave it. That's where you're going to leave it at that point.
I'll stop right there.
So then we're on the same page, because I'm a huge proponent of the DC animated universe, and I tell them all about it. I just gloss over Batman Ninja though. I'm like, okay.
I mean, not even like Michael Jordan didn't hit all of his shots, you know. So
no, you know, you gotta.
And I love DC animation. Like DC animation, they're beat for beat, they get it done. But
yeah, it's good stuff.
Sometimes it looked pretty.
Exactly. All right, so it wasn't just me, because I'm not a big anime guy, and I love Batman, and I'm watching this. I was on a plane flying back from I don't know where the hell where, and I'm watching Batman Ninja. I'm like looking around, like, what the fuck am I watching? What am I looking at? What is this shit, man?
It's not a good time.
This is just me. I mean, what is this crap? All right, so then I guess we can close with
Well,
some music.
While we get our music going on, I would like to ask Walter to plug his TikTok, and then I'm going to plug something afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at WoWaltRants. The same thing all along. I do anime analysis on TikTok, and also just general dumb things to embarrass myself. So please follow, enjoy. I'm here for it.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, dude, thanks for joining us. I have a feeling we'll be seeing you on Granny's Peach Tea at some point. Sometime again.
Not the last time.
And I've already booked this man for my show, because I have leveled up and having my own show on Pop Culture Pros.
Leveled up.
Monday the 29th, starring Eddie, as well as my friend, our friend Ginny, we're going to be talking Casino Royale, the Bond franchise. And I got Walter booked for one of those Daniel Craig movies. I'm going to save which one till we get there. But Casino Royale, 8:30 next Monday the 29th. Join myself, Eddie, and Ginny, where we start like bonding over Bond in our 00 deep dive.
Wow, there it is. Bonding
That is a
over
great
Bond.
tagline. Bonding over Bond is a beautiful tagline.
Thank you. I've been saving that. I didn't want to throw that out until we got close enough.
If we ever get a damn budget to make shirts, we're gonna have quotes on them. Bonding over Bond could be one. We have "Fuck You Movie" is another one that I want on a T-shirt. Get It On with Jason punching has to be another one. Yeah. So, wow, we did do it. So thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Follow us on popculturepros.com. Subscribe on YouTube or on Twitter. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Go on Facebook, and that's where you're catching us. Join the Facebook group for Pop Culture Pros, and obviously for Granny's Peach Tea. Join in the daily comic conversation. We have a bunch of stuff we chatter about and babble about that doesn't make the show. And we'll be back next week, which will be covering episode 3 of Hawkeye. We'll be starting our MCU Spider-Man with Spider-Man Homecoming. So we finally get into that. And we're going to talk about Masters of the Universe Revelation Part 2, along with our regular CW verse stuff. So we got a super packed show. We'll let you know when that's going to come down. What's Up Dangerous is kicking in big time. So we're ending on a hype note. Nice. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we'll check out. Jason and I will see you Monday on 00 Deep Dive. So everyone have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving. Jason, Walter, happy Thanksgiving as well.
Happy Thanksgiving, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.